Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's tutorial presentation. I'm James Flood, and today I'll be talking to you about the topic games as systems, with a particular focus on a classic game which was released in the year 2000, 16 years ago, and it was published by Hasbro Interactive, co-developed by Microprose, and co-written and developed by one and only Chris Sawyer. He wrote 99% of the code in the Assembly 86 language. And if you haven't recognised the music in the background by now, or if this doesn't sound familiar, the game is the one and only RollerCoaster Tycoon, the original game, the first game in the series. So, as we get into talking about aesthetics, you'll notice straight away that it's an isometric view. So it's not a perspective view, it's an isometric view, 2.5 dimensions. So I suppose aesthetically that enables the player to manage their theme park a little bit better and control, I suppose, more efficiently. But then again, it has its setbacks because there's less perspective, there's less depth of perception. So I suppose objects at the bottom of the screen may appear the same distance away from you as objects at the top of the screen, and so on and so forth. So that's just an overview of the type of dimensions of this game, and it also affects the mechanics as well, so just slightly. Each scenario is, well, not each scenario, but the scenarios are set in a variety of environments. So this obviously has a bigger aesthetic implication. So here we have Canary Mines, which is set in a mine in the middle of a forest. So again, this gives the player, well, something to look forward to, I suppose, and another variant of a scenario environment. Here we have one that is set in the desert. Obviously this one's in Egypt, you can see with the Sphinx and the pyramids there, so something that adds more replay value to the game, which is an aesthetic which is adds to submission, like games of pastime, so they can come back and think, oh yeah, this scenario is different from that one, and so on and so forth. This game is set in the parklands. It's not quite completely a forest, but it's still parklands because there's some cleared area which enables you to develop rides without having to remove any trees. It's called Mel's World. This one is more an Antarctic scenario environment. As you can see, it's all a lot of ice, and which greatly affects how the game's actually played, not just the mechanics, but also the aesthetics and like the dynamics and how these two work together, and the player has less land to work with. I'll get to that later. Here, this is a beachside scenario with a pre-built wooden roller coaster there with houses in the background as well. So yet again, another different environment for the scenario. Some scenarios share the similar environments, but each one has its own charm. Each one's different in its own way, which sets it apart and gives it its own sort of unique identity. And this one's set in the future. It seems to be set on some sort of planet. It's called Future World, and the ground looks a bit like squashed cherries. And yet again, the point is that each scenario is set in a variety of, each scenario has its own unique environment. There's 3 different types of zoom levels. So this is the close one, this is the middle one, and this is the far one as well. And there's 4 different angles you can view your park from. And you can rotate 90 degrees clockwise each time you press that curly red arrow at the top. So this is one of them, that's another, this is another, and this is another. So yet again, it's more discrete. You can't fluidly scroll in and out between these points, but yet again, I suppose it's still an effective way to view your park from very particular points. So getting onto scenarios now, each scenario has an objective. This is the main one, where you're required to have a certain amount of guests in your park by a certain time with a certain park rating. Your park rating is the guests' collective thoughts about your park, their overall happiness level. It's a bit like the all ordinaries on the share market. It's their collective happiness levels all combined into one to give you the park rating. So that's the main one. This one also, your objective is different. You have to achieve a park value of at least $20,000 by a certain time. So the way to do that is It's a little bit different from the one I showed before. You have to build a lot of rides rather than just solely keeping the guests happy, so it's a little bit more tricky, but not impossible. This one here, money is called Arid Heights. Money is no object. You have to have at least 2,000 guests. So yeah, you can't close the park just to make a great theme park. So it's easy to keep your park rating above 700, but yeah, so money is not an object, but it's harder than it looks, and you just have to keep your park rating above 700, so it's almost like a sandbox but not quite. Razor Rocks, this one's different because you have to build at least 10 different types of, one of each different types of roller coaster, 10 different types of roller coaster with a minimum excitement value for each roller coaster. The excitement value is just how each roller coaster has an excitement value. It's just how exciting your roller coaster is, and it's given a value. This is similar to Volcania is similar to Razor Rocks, but there's these 5 roller coasters are partially built, and you have to add to them in order to achieve an excitement value for each roller coaster. They're not. You cannot demolish what's already built, so it adds to the challenge. And yeah, so I suppose it's more for the hardcore gamer who really wants to challenge themselves. And yeah, lastly, this is one of the last types of objectives you'll get, and it's similar to the first one, but there are certain rides that you cannot demolish because it's part of the conditions that you're allowed to use as park for, like the part of the contract. So you cannot delete 2 rides. You can't delete the ghost train, and you can't delete the wooden roller coaster. So you have to work around them and actually use these restrictions to alter the way you play the game. And this again alters the mechanics because you have to use your mind to build rides elsewhere and actually use these rides to your advantage. And you can't just get rid of them to avoid the problem. And this is a real theme park called Heide Park in Germany. It has the same type of objective as Forest Frontiers. Guests, you're able to monitor the happiness value of each guest, like how happy they're all feeling, and alter them and tailor to their needs. You can even track how much money each guest is carrying as well, and how much they've spent on certain things. You can track your finances. You're given a loan by the bank each time you start a scenario to enable you to use that money to build rides and stalls and attractions, etc, etc. You can even keep track of how much money, whether you're making profit or not, running at a loss. You can keep track of your park value. You can even establish marketing campaigns to attract guests to your park. You can obviously use this money to build rides, which in turn will keep guests happy, but certain guests have a higher excitement, would prefer more intense rides. Some guests prefer less intense rides as well, so it's a pretty complicated game in how this all actually plays out. You can also engage in research and development, which ultimately leads to new rides becoming available for you, and it's up to you how much money you pour into it and what type of rides you want to be researched and ultimately released for you to create in your park. Footpaths are essential and this is one of the key rules of the game. You need footpaths to ferry guests from one part of the park to another. Water as well can play a big part as well in contributing to the aesthetics of the game and the mechanics as well, because certain rides like boat hire can only be made on water. So some parks actually, if they have a boat hire, they require water, and some people have been known to, if they don't like any of their guests, is to pick them up using the pincer and drop them in a square of water to drown them and kill them. Just as a side effect. It's just I suppose it's not really a fun thing, but some people find it fun. But land is another big thing as well. It costs a lot of money to reconfigure and reshape land, but it can pay off if you can do it to create and build and actually open a big ride which is use that carved out piece or open up piece of land, and you can end up making back the money that you used to carve out that land. But land is a big one as well. It's another resource that the player can use to, I suppose, aesthetically and mechanically create their theme park. And so scenery and gardens as well. This is more of an aesthetic. And so you can obviously demolish trees. You can add trees. You can also add different types of trees and gardens and benches and bins, which are essential because otherwise the guests will complain that they don't have anywhere to sit and they don't have anywhere to put their rubbish. And theming as well adds another big aesthetic. There's lots of different types of themes. This is only one of them. It's called spooky theming, and yeah, so you can actually add your own theme to your theme park, which is another aesthetic which adds to the game. And staff are essential because a handyman, well, will clean up vomit if guests come off an intense roller coaster. Otherwise, they will complain that the path is disgusting. A mechanical fix broken down rides. It's essential that you do that. And also, an entertainer will keep your guests even happier, and security guards will stop any vandalism occurring in your park, or most vandalism. You even have a message register as well to keep you updated on what's going on in your park. All the messages, all the updates are there. You can even alter the mechanics of the operations of your ride to increase, I suppose, turnover, and to increase how much money you're making and how happy the guests are, and whether the ride synchronises with the ride with an adjacent station to make it look better when they both travel at the same time. You can also adjust admission prices to each ride. So you have to give your guests what they want for the right price. If it's too expensive, then they won't go on it, they'll complain it's too much. But if it's too cheap, then they'll love it, they'll go on it, but you won't be making much money from it. So it's about finding that happy medium. And also you can adjust the admission price to the entry to the park itself. And you have to find that happy medium there as well. But you'll make a lot of money from giving a reasonable valued admission price, and the higher the better. You just have to find that happy medium, and the guests will tell you. One way to keep your guests inside the park is to put a no entry banner at the park exit, so that they actually can't escape. But this will send your park value way down because they'll say that they're lost. But if you want to keep your a certain amount of guests in your park to achieve your objective, then go for it. But it's a big risk. That's another mechanic which affects play, which some players try to use. So obviously this is what it looks like when you construct a roller coaster, and it looks good, but it can be time consuming, but very, very fulfilling when you can actually pull it off. Although it costs a lot of money, it's quite satisfying seeing guests enjoyed your ride that you constructed. Or you can make use a pre-built design of a roller coaster to save time. Also, you can customise your park or each ride. You can add themes to each ride, so you can give, let's say here, you can give this roller coaster a jungle style theme, which adds to the aesthetics of the game. And you can even match that with here Jurassic style music for that particular roller coaster as well, to add to the aesthetics. Here you can even adjust the colours of the ride. You can change them. You can adjust colours of particular parts of ride tracks or the cars to add to that deep customisation that this game offers as well. The only thing that I'd criticise this game for, the biggest thing that I'd criticise this game for, is its slightly sloppy interface. It has a heavy reliance on icons, which if you end up pressing all the keyboard shortcuts, it just ends up looking something like this, and it just gets really sloppy and messy, and you have to sort of navigate your way around it. And so a better interface would make the games just slightly better and result in a better aesthetic. But this is the only way. This is the only time I'd really criticise the game. As you can see there, it's just a bit of a jumble. But another cool thing, and I've got to wrap this up, but you get park awards as well. So it just doesn't help you achieve your objective. It's just a nice little trinket or bauble just to give you bragging rights and to wear as a badge of honour. So you get a tightest park award or safest park award, or even if you're bad, a most disappointing park award. And another cool part, just to finish up before I say lesson to the other games, is that you can rename pretty much anything in your park. Here I've renamed this ride, this 3D cinema, to call it Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I've renamed guests in this who are sitting in the cinema watching the movie after particular Star Wars characters. So Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker, etc, and Chewbacca. Also, a cool thing is that you can charge your guests $10 to go to the toilet each, which I don't like, and you can even click on see-through rides and scenery to watch your guests go to the toilet. That's quite a funny one as well, so you can see through the walls. And even if it's raining, they need to go to the toilet, your guests will actually still be holding the umbrella as they go to the toilet, even though there's a ceiling above their head. It's just one of the cool, neat things about this game, which makes it, adds the replay value, which just makes it so much fun. To wrap it up, lessons that can be learned for the design of other games. RollerCoaster Tycoon, each time you complete an objective, a new scenario is unlocked. In RollerCoaster Tycoon 2, all the scenarios are there already unlocked. So if you unlock a certain objective, if you complete a certain scenario, another scenario is unlocked. So there's less of a feeling of reward in RollerCoaster Tycoon 2, which I think RollerCoaster Tycoon original does really well. Decustomization is another big one. Plain fun and renaming almost anything. The game never ends. It has a huge replay value that can be played long after each objective is completed because this game, each part can be played long after the objective is completed, so you can just keep on perfecting it and perfecting it. And last but not least, offline single player. Some games these days require that you have an internet connection. This one doesn't, which enables you to play anywhere, anytime, which is great as well, which adds to its replay value, and that's why it has such a large retro following today. So thanks